Hey everybody, welcome back to Student Connection. Thanks for checking us out today. Today we're going to look at something, it's probably a very familiar passage of Scripture. We've heard it, maybe you heard it preached, maybe it's hanging up in your home somewhere, because it's just what I've learned over the years. It's one of those verses it's popular, it's out there, it's often quoted, but how often does it sink in, and do we take it and live it out? But its verse, the scripture is Proverbs 22:6. Train up a child in the way he should go. Even when he is old, he will not depart from it. And I've heard this preached. I've heard it torn apart and put back together, and so we can understand the ins and outs and what God intends through Scripture for us in it. And as I was thinking through this and thinking of my life, thinking of my children's lives and the climate and culture we live in today, we live in a world of the mindset of we want the best for our kids. And parents, we all should. And that's that we should desire to give them the best within the means that we have and what the Lord has for them. And that should ultimately be the first thing we do, is put them before the Lord as we spend time in prayer for their future, for their future family, because we don't know what the future holds, but the Lord does. And in this, I kept getting caught up on the word, the phrase, in the way he should go. Because I think a lot of times, and this is my opinion on this, we get caught up on the way we want them to go, what we want them to do. I can think back to my life when I was 12, 13 years old is when I made the decision to stop playing baseball. I love baseball, still love baseball, enjoy watching baseball. All my kids play, my 3 boys play, and my daughter plays softball, and they all love it. And this time of year, we're at the ball field every night, and I'm good with that. Like I honestly wouldn't know what to do without that. And one day when they are grown, I'm going to miss it. So I'm going to have to do something to fill that. So it got me thinking about when I was 12, 13 years old, and I decided, hey, I'm going to focus more on football and getting prepared for that because I enjoy it just a little bit more. But up until that point, I played baseball because it's something that my dad introduced to me and my brother, and we were able to play in the backyard and continued playing. And my brother played from the time he could start until through high school, and much better of a baseball player than I could be. And I'm grateful for that. And even though I stopped playing at 12 and 13, I still went to all his games, supported him, loved the sport, loved being around it, and keep up with it. And for me, outside of watching my kids play, is one of my hobbies. One of my favorite hobbies to do is watch college baseball. I love college sports more than I like professional sports, but college baseball, we love it. My family loves it. We keep up with it. And being Mississippi State fans, Mississippi State's always had a good program. I've been fortunate enough to follow some really good teams over the years, up to winning a national championship a few years ago. And so it's been great for us. And following that and watching these young men develop as players and continue on into the major leagues. And so it's great to be able to follow that. And as I was reading this article, I saw it the other day and read through it, and then it popped back up on my social media feed this morning. And I read through it again and sent it to a couple of people because I really thought it was good. But it was some advice from a now professional baseball player that had played college ball just a couple years ago. He was an outfielder for Mississippi State. His name's Tanner Allen, and he was being asked about basically the influence of what he thinks of the important things for kids. And he's ultimately saying, let your kids be kids. Parents, let them enjoy 10U baseball is one aspect he looked at. He during the off season, he was able to give some hitting lessons to kids, and he said there were parents that came to him and said, listen, we want him to be here. And he could tell on the child's face, I have no desire to do this. So it's something that if we are not careful, we want to train our children in the way we want them to go. whether it's sports or whether it's academics. Now, granted, I think as parents, we should want the best for our children. There are things offered today that weren't offered when I was a kid. I'd love for my children to experience if it's something that ultimately will honor the Lord and help them develop to be an all-around person. For me, it was sports, and I'm grateful for that. I learned lots of life lessons in that. But there's going to be a time to where that may not be it, and we need to understand that it is not God's desire to push our children into something that they don't necessarily have a desire for. Now, at the same time, we are to train them up. We are to push them in a way that honors the Lord and direct them there, because they are our children. God has given them to us for a short time to guide into ultimately a relationship with Him. We can need to continue to put the gospel in front of our children, that they know how to talk about it. They know how to engage folks with the gospel. And that's ultimately the most important thing. But continue to develop a relationship with your children. I can go and take my boys and even my daughter, and we can go to a baseball game and sit down and watch it and talk about this and talk about that, talk about the umpires, talk about position players, and things like that. They may pick up on something I don't pick up on. And it's good and it's encouraging to me, and it helps them. It helps develop them, the mental aspect of the game, of what to watch for. If we're watching people we know, it's great to go and encourage those people, because the whole team aspect of sports is a great thing as well. And I believe ultimately the biggest team we can have is the church. And so as we encourage each other, as we walk with the Lord. But as we train up our children in the way they should go when they're old, they won't depart from it. Again, my example of myself, my dad training me in baseball, I think that's the reason I have such a love for the game. It's not because I was any good at it. I'm definitely not built for speed, so I'm not setting any stolen base records. But he put a love into my heart for the sport, which I am grateful for. But as an earthly example, how much more as of a parent are we supposed to pour into our children a love for God and a love for the gospel, and taking it out and pouring it into people and encouraging one another. One of the biggest things we can do, parents, if your children are believers, is to talk with them about what the Lord is doing in their life, how we see the Lord work. I'm grateful to have those conversations with my children. I had one this weekend talk to me about something he read in the Bible the other day, and was telling me what it meant, and was really, really good, really close, especially not being guided by an adult reading it with him. And I asked him, I said, hey, when did you read that? Oh, when we were reading the Bible the other day, I was reading this chapter, and this is what it said, and this is what I got from it. And I was encouraged, because the Lord, speaking through His Word to my son, to be able to pick up of it, have the discernment of what it means. And so in that, I'm grateful, and I pray that the Lord continue to grow him in that area. And I say all that not to brag on him, but to brag on the Lord and how He is using His Word to do that. And if they can hit a baseball along the way, or if they can go and compete in academics at the highest level, whether I think of things like debate, and I think of things like robotics, and I think of so many other opportunities that our children have today to be engaged in things that they're learning something. They're being made more of a complete person. Now, as an adult, I wish, man, we would have had like how to do your taxes competition, or things like that. Things that now I'm like, okay, I really could use this as a 40-year-old. So I encourage you, there are things that we can walk through with our life, walk with our kids through in life, that it's going to grow them, it's going to encourage them, and it's a part of the wholeness of what that one verse says, because Scripture gives us the instructions of how to live this life. As I share with our students here at church, there is not any time, there anything we will ever come in contact with or ever experience that's not covered in Scripture. And so I encourage you in that, dig deep in the Word, dig deep together as a family, encourage your children in what they're doing, whether it's dance or cheer or band or sports or whatever they have an interest in. Ultimately, pursue it to honor the Lord first and foremost, and to help them develop, because you'll never know how the Lord will use that as a platform in their life for Him. And so, in reading that article, Tanner Allen put that when he was older, he knew, I just want to play baseball. And he got offers from LSU, and was actually committed to LSU, and ended up coming to Mississippi State, which I am grateful for. But he even said when he, before his senior year, he told his high school coach, hey, I'm not going to play football anymore, to where he was a starting quarterback with a record of 23-2. So imagine that coach was taken a little bit back. Maybe his family was taken a little bit back by that decision. But there are going to be decisions along the way that our children are going to strive to navigate, and that's why God has given them to us, to help them navigate those decisions. So whether it's sports or academics or a job or relationship questions, let's help guide them by what the Word says. So as they get older, as God uses them where He has them, as they become this next generation of adults and parents, that let them be rooted in what His Word says so they won't depart from it. So when there are decisions that have to be made, they are confident in Him that they're making the right decisions. When they are pouring into their own children or their friends or their neighbors, that they are making the right decision in what they are telling them, in the advice that they are giving, that it's rooted in what the gospel says. So as they get older, they're not departing from it. They're pointing back to it and growing in the dependency of their relationship with God. And so I encourage you, moms, dads, students, dig into the Word together, encourage each other, spur each other on, continue to hold each other accountable, and God will use it in a mighty way. So I pray that He would use us where we are this week.